Everyone, thank you for joining and spending some time with us today. The Bootcamp series was built and established out of our partners and our customers asking for help understanding a little bit about what we do and how we do it. So I've been with Quest about 15 years now. My role has been exclusively to build and grow our partnerships. And oftentimes the feedback we get is around requests for training on how we engage and training on how we see things in the market and how we can help our customers through our partners. So we built this for you. So any feedback that you have, any questions that you have, we would love to have them in the chat. And we're going to jump into today's topic, which is the ability to really start the conversation around cybersecurity and kind of dabble in that realm without being an expert. There are so many different aspects to cybersecurity, so many different areas that you can pursue in working with your customers, and your customers need help in these areas. And you don't have to be an expert. You have partnership with Quest. You have the ability to bring in specialists, and we're going to kind of jump into that today around generating more revenue and helping your customers. So our topic, like we mentioned, is cybersecurity without expertise. We're going to be going through the idea of moving beyond fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Whenever you get into a cybersecurity conversation, sometimes it's like the world is ending, everything is going to fall apart, and everyone's dead, right? Not necessarily the case, but it is a serious topic that people need help securing and need to have a reality discussion about. So you got the fear, uncertainty, and doubt on one end of the spectrum. You have the naivete and the head in the sand on the other. We're going to try to look for a happy medium, right? Reality conversations. And we're going to talk a little bit around looking for trouble within your accounts, looking for some yellow flags and some red flags and some areas of concern that you can bring to the forefront with your clients and generating some opportunities, or at least some catalyst conversations that can lead to future opportunities. Cybersecurity is a game of staying in touch. It is an engagement that not now, not now, not now, not now. Something changes, something happens. Hey, I need help ASAP, right? So we're going to talk a little bit around capabilities and the ability to stay in touch and stay mindful of your clients' needs. Knowledge we're going to be going through today. And again, if you like this and this helps you, or you think this helps someone on your team, please share it. It'll be available in the partner portal as well. But if you do like it, it does help out. It's going to be showing a little bit around our approach to cybersecurity. We're not the only firm out there doing this. You're probably hearing a lot about this all across the market, but we want to, convey how we approach the cybersecurity market, what to look for, when to engage, and ultimately how to help your customers. Going to be covering a little bit of the fundamentals, right? In order to have a catalyst conversation, in order to start a dialogue about something, it's good to have a little bit of a baseline. So we're going to be going over a little bit of baseline conversations around what's driving different cybersecurity needs and requirements. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what I would see as successful as we're going through this is, can you start a conversation with a client and, can you build a little bit of trust and credibility around, you don't necessarily have to have the answer, but one of my best responses, and I was in the Army for a little bit before coming to work at Quest. You never tell a senior leader or a customer a BS answer, but the best answer you can give is, I don't know, sir, but let me go find out. And that's a great way to build credibility with your customers, especially when you may not be an expert in a specific area of focus. So what we always want to understand when we're working with clients and when we're engaging with partners is, why is an organization looking for help in a certain area? So in cybersecurity, one of the biggest whys that we are seeing out there is business capability and outcomes around securing the environment, securing the data, and securing their people, right? They are struggling. Clients, we find, especially in the middle market, are struggling to secure their people, secure their data, and keep up with all of the different advances in technology that they're seeing out there. A lot of point products are coming to market, a lot of jargon, a lot of you should buy this, you should buy that type of noise out there. And they're losing that signal as far as what their ultimate goal is to secure their organization, right? They're what we're finding is there's a lot of overlap in capabilities and solutions from different technologies, whether it's their Microsoft environment or their Google environment or their hardware data center or cloud or Azure, AWS. There's all sorts of point solutions that are overlapping each other, and organizations aren't necessarily getting the outcome that is promised to them from these investments. In cybersecurity, if you go to RSA, you go to any of the big conventions, there are thousands of software and hardware and device providers out there who are attacking different elements of the market. So you have SASE solution providers, you have ZTNA, you have people who are trying to bundle in identity services like multi-factor authentication, right? So these are building blocks for cybersecurity, but at the core of it, you need to understand what is this addressing for the customer from an outcome standpoint. So SASE solutions, for example. So how is that security edge helping the business stay secure? Okay, ZTNA, how is that ability for a remote user to access a cloud application and maybe an on-premise data center hosted application in a trusted way that's constantly validated, which is basically what ZTNA does? How does that help the end user get access to data in a secure way? Does it help them? Does it hinder them? Is it enabling them to share documentation or share information in a secure, optimized way, or is it potentially a vulnerability, right? So that's the idea of replacing VPN connectivity with a zero trust approach. Multi-factor authentication, very similar. How are we protecting our clients? All of us bank with somebody, right? We all have a bank that we keep our funds in, whether it's old school Wells Fargo, they've been around for hundreds of years, or the new age SoFi guys or the Robin Hoods or whatever, that's all SaaS-based applications. All of those people, at least I hope, you have multi-factor authentication where you have to prove you are who you say you are through a secondary method of authentication. You username and credentials, and then maybe you validate via phone call or a text message or some other type of token, right? So, but how is that supporting the clients? How is that helping? In banking world, we all love it because, hey, that's where our money is. We want to protect it. But what is that doing for the end user? What's the outcome? We can all sell licenses. We can all sell firewalls. We can all sell all sorts of stuff. But how are you implementing that? And how is that helping the customer, right? XDR, MDR, endpoint protection as a service. Classic for bolting on capabilities and some overlap there, right? How are you monitoring those assets? So manage detection and response. Who's actually managing that detection? Who's actually watching those vulnerabilities or watching for those alerts? And when they come up, how are they getting resolved, right? How is that helping the customer prevent a breach? There's cool presentations. I sit in vendor presentations every day. I just left one about 20 minutes ago. Really, really neat stuff on a slide deck. But how is that actually helping an organization secure their environment and respond to the threats that are inevitably going to come up? So this is the challenge that a lot of your customers are dealing with. Why am I paying for this stuff? Their CFO, their CEO, their leadership. Why am I paying for this stuff? What is this helping me to address? There's fatigue coming into the marketplace from AI and from cybersecurity with breaches and spend and all sorts of things. People are getting pretty tired of dealing with this, and they're looking for someone who can come in and have an outcome-based conversation with them. And you're dealing with different buyers, right? You're dealing with different people, right? There's the technical buyer who's going to want to look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant. They're going to want to look at the analysts. They're going to be talking to their peer groups. Hey, what are you buying for endpoint protection? What are you buying for MDR? What SIM do you have in place? What's your back end? You're going to get questions from the technical leadership around what platform do you use for your monitoring and alerting, for your SIM, for your correlation of events? Basically, and what are the industry best practices? So that conversation is usually a little bit more of a technical conversation. You have the financial leadership of an organization that is looking more for the risk management discussion, right? So technical conversation, let's have some speeds and feeds. Let's talk about capabilities. Let's talk about, Gartner Magic Quadrant and those reports, all good. Financial leadership and the people who are, in charge of the organization from a revenue standpoint, cybersecurity is one of the largest risks to an organization from a disaster standpoint. A lot of people think of cybersecurity and disaster recovery as separate practices within an organization. They are very, very closely aligned. And what we're seeing as a cybersecurity provider and as an incident response provider is that those risks are blending. One of the biggest disasters organizations deal with right now is ransomware, malware, and breaches. So the financial leadership, they want to know, how is this helping with my risk management strategy? What's the efficacy of this product set? And is there an ROI? We had a healthcare organization that we got brought into after a breach, and the CFO was beside himself because he had spent over the last 24 months over $2.5 million in state-of-the-art next generation endpoint protection, next generation firewalls. They had a SASE solution deployed, and they still got hit, and they still got encrypted, and they still got breached. And he was beside himself because he didn't understand why. Well, sometimes the technical buyers buy the best of breed, but they don't have these two bullet points here from the financial leadership standpoint of how effective is this solution right now? Who's making sure that this is actually being an efficient use of the tools that I've invested in? And similar with, the fiduciary leadership and their interests. They are brand awareness and the idea of, seeing something go sideways, that hurts the organization, that hurts the brand, and they're trying to avoid that from a reputation standpoint. So there's different pain points with different leadership. And when you're chatting with these different buyers, calling that out a little bit and kind of talking through what they're trying to avoid and what they're trying to secure, is a good place to look for pain. So the majority of what we found, the majority of the market is waiting for you to pitch them on a solution. They're waiting for you to tell them, hey, this point product is going to solve this point challenge for you. That's one way to do it. A lot of the vendors would like you to do that. Manufacturers and software providers, they build a solution and then take it to market. That's a very, very noisy place to be. If you can have the conversation with the technical leader, financial leadership, or the fiduciary, owners of an organization, having the outcome conversation leads to, at least in our experience, a much higher probability of them taking action. So being curious, asking the questions around, have they had this conversation around risk management? Do they know the efficacy of their security posture at this time? Have they tested their backups? We're going to get into some good questions here, as far as sample questions, as far as how we can help and how you can, potentially, get engaged. Just a quick call out right here, and we'll send this to everyone who's in attendance today as well. But on the partner portal, we have lots and lots of questions and lots of training material on how to start the conversation. But there's a link right here. You can go to that anytime. But when you're starting the conversation around cybersecurity, being curious and asking questions that are open-ended, and you don't necessarily have to have the answer, or you don't have to, pretend you're running a Socratic method sales process and you're leading them down the primrose path to where you want them to be. Just ask the question, right? Have you conducted, for example, a business impact analysis for a data breach? Do you know what it's going to cost you if you lose 10 customer records or 10 healthcare records? Or do you know what it's going to cost you if you lose access to your database for 12 hours and you have to restore from backups? Have you tested your backups in the last 6 months? Fully tested them, right? So going through, a couple open-ended conversations around simple things like, how are you currently managing your MFA or your dual factor authentication? Do you have MFA in place? Are you going through cybersecurity insurance issues right now, and do you need any help with maybe an audit that's upcoming? One that a lot of people kind of look at you sideways on and can start a conversation would be the idea of, hey, do you have an acceptable use policy for your data, for your corporate data? This is a big issue right now in the world of AI. A lot of organizations are dumping in their users, go back about 10 years ago, and we were all talking about shadow IT spend on cloud services, right? Back when, you could throw a corporate credit card and spin up some AWS resources, or, people were spending the idea of shadow IT in the cloud. Same game, different day, shadow IT in the AI space, right? So, hey, I want to prioritize my customer list. Maybe a sales rep takes, a 500 account list and dumps it into Chat GPT in order to maybe put together a QBR faster than maybe they could do on their own. Not saying I've ever heard of that happening, but that's sensitive data that's very, very important to organizations that maybe they haven't documented their acceptable use policy for corporate data. Don't even go to the financial services or healthcare markets or anything like that. I'm just talking about, knucklehead sales guys like me. Got to be careful with that kind of stuff, and it's got to be documented. It's got to be secured. So open-ended conversations around these kind of discussion points. How are they monitoring things? How are you monitoring the environment? How are you keeping up, with the latest threats? Who is your trusted partner that you talk to about this? Who do you believe in the cybersecurity space, right? A lot of people think that sales reps and folks out there trying to sell them are just kind of pitching fear, but who do they really trust, right? Who do they really listen to? Everyone's got an answer for that. It might not be the answer you want to hear, but it's good to know, and it can move the process, down the road a little bit. So, what we're seeing as far as, the top reasons, we've been providing cybersecurity for about 25 years now. But as far as, expanding your experience or your capabilities in this space, it's going to lead to a lot of, more of a stickiness with your clients. It's going to help you from a competitive advantage standpoint, as far as, letting them know whether you're selling phone systems or telecommunications or on-premise hardware or physical infrastructure or audiovisual. Any of those assets that you have when you're working with your clients need to be secured, and they're going to need to have help around securing the edge, securing the network, bundling security into their communications plan. It's going to tie you into that client. So the threat landscape is not shrinking. Every day we come in, there's new threats going on. There's new geopolitical threats going on. There's new organized crime and extortion, malware and ransomware threats going on. The regulations are continuing to get ramped up. New regulations from the feds, are getting pushed down from defense contractors and anybody that does business with the federal or state government. You have things like FedRAMP, you have things like StateRAMP coming out, you have CMMC, you have all sorts of different compliance issues coming up. And organizations need help managing that and executing against those regulations. It's a huge opportunity to get involved with them and help them through that process. You can do it with the tools, or you can do it with helping from a policy standpoint, or just helping them kind of understand where they are today. Um, this one, right? So the data aspect of things, we talked a little bit about artificial intelligence and shadow IT, but people are training on other organizations' data on a daily basis. And having your data and having your client base and having your policies and having basically the keys to the kingdom for your clients, having that data secured and isolated and basically in a secure environment. A lot of firms don't understand where all their data is right now. We were on in a recent opportunity with the credit union that went through a breach, and one of the biggest areas that they got tied up with was they didn't realize that their mortgage department had been saving data and assets in all sorts of different locations. And when they got breached, they had a pretty flat network. They lost a lot of corporate data and a lot of customer data, lending data. That is basically when you're taking out a loan, when you're taking out or applying for credit, that's pretty much the keys to your identity for the most part, right? That's social security numbers, that's addresses, that's maiden names, that's all sorts, that's, previous addresses, that's everything. And organizations need help understanding where that is. So another way you can help your clients is basically, hey, your data is everywhere, or is it all on-prem? There's risks to both, right? How are we securing that? How are we backing that up? If you only have one target on-prem, then you got one target for the bad actors to encrypt. If you have it in the cloud, but you're not quite sure exactly where it is, if it's in Azure or if it's in a secure FTP site, not quite sure. It's good to understand that and document that. So a lot of different ways to engage. We're an instant response, instant containment provider. And what that means is we see people on their worst day, and we get introduced to them on some of their worst days from the IT standpoint pretty often. Right now, we're averaging about 3 to 4 incident response events on a weekly basis from non-Quest customers, which means we're meeting new firms every week through our partners that are experiencing some type of a breach or an issue. And with number 8 here is what we try to preach is that you need to be proactive around your cybersecurity management and defense strategy and defense in depth. Unfortunately, people typically learn that after they learn directly, or they learn it as tangentially to someone that they care about or a firm that they know that went through a breach and maybe lost a lot of money or got hurt pretty bad. And we see that every week, unfortunately. So we try to be proactive. So some ways you can work with your clients to be proactive are some areas that we call, what we call our cyber defense suite, or a simple checkup program. As I mentioned before, I'm an Army guy. I was an infantry officer. So I love this quote. It's from World War I. And it's infantry wins battles, queen of battle, good stuff. Infantry wins battles, but logistics wins wars. And a lot of people think that cybersecurity is about the latest and greatest, the sexy weapon systems, the cool guy toys, right? So as an infantry officer, we got to jump out of planes. We got to do, we got cool, all sorts of cool toys from a weapon standpoint. But if you don't have bullets and you can't feed your troops and you're not in shape and you're not taking care of the basics and you don't have a logistics supply chain, you're going to starve, you're going to freeze, you're going to die. And that's what this quote is about. And that's what it means in cybersecurity as well. There are the great tools out there, right? There are awesome tools out there. There's the latest and greatest. There's artificial intelligence, machine learning, all sorts of new hotness, right? In the marketplace. Any given time, you Google cybersecurity, Sequoia Capital, KKR, all the big boys. Listen to Listen to the All In podcast and you'll hear about all the cool, sexy, neat stuff that everybody's doing and investing and making their billions in. That's great. But the logistics of cybersecurity is in the daily practice of keeping those basic systems, the operating systems, the people, the policies enforced. And that's not sexy. No one likes to talk about corporate use policy for data. Well, some of our analysts do, but most normal people don't. No one wants to talk about just the idea of, have you patched your servers in the last 6 months, right? What patch levels are you on for your devices that are sitting on your desks of all your people? How are you enforcing that, right? No one likes to talk about that because that's a lot of hard work. That takes discipline, right? And discipline is something that we are constantly trying to evangelize to our clients and to our partners around the idea of maintaining critical infrastructure. So the way we do that is two ways. We provide a cyber defense suite of offerings. The cyber defense suite of offerings comprises of the layered defense and the layered policies that we see people struggling with. So patch management, backups, monitoring and alerting of systems. Believe it or not, we're an MSP, we've been doing this 25 years. There's still a lot of noise on the network, especially in SMB and middle market. People don't always know what to look for. Maybe they bought a new monitoring software, they bought a new management platform, and they invested a lot of money in it. They got sold a good product, but the discipline of getting those alerts and tuning those alerts and making sure that you're not getting false positives and you're not getting alert fatigue is still one of the biggest areas where we help organizations from a managed service standpoint. Just monitoring and alerting, just getting that right is not easy. Patch management, again, not sexy. No one likes to talk about patch management. It's kind of lame, but it's extremely important as a layered security as far as the discipline of securing an environment. Backups, another area in our cyber defense suite where we provide managed backups. The client could be running their own backups, but if they would like help validating that the backup job was completed, there's a service that we offer, or we can help them implement this within their own systems of confirming a backup job was completed. Now, does that sound sexy about file-based recovery or restores or immutable storage or all the cool, there's tons of vendors that provide backup and there's all sorts of good products out there. But confirming that a backup was effectively completed, that's not sexy. That's not cool, but very, very important because majority of firms that get breached, a lot of the ones we're seeing have some type of backup problem and they weren't really checking until they had to, and then that's too late. We do some of the cool stuff too, so we'll do correlation and SIM, right? So log management, log monitoring. Another one that's not necessarily the new hotness is, where are you storing your logs? How are you correlating events across different locations? If something happens over here and something happens over here at the same time, do you have visibility to say, hey, these two things may be correlated to a bad actor trying to do something to our environment? That takes a lot of work. So our cyber defense suite is basically a combination of all these different service offerings. We provide the software and the capabilities as a service. So we'll provide the SIM, we can provide the MFA, we can provide the backups or the patch management tools, or if a client already has those in place, a unique thing about Quest is we'll come in and operate, manage, and support those from a discipline standpoint, or help the client enforce their policies and help them get there. So cyber defense suite is one way, right, that we help out with the logistics game of cybersecurity. The other one is a complete no-brainer that every single one of you needs to talk to your customers about. If you're not going to do it with us, do it with somebody. is a checkup, right? We provide cybersecurity checkups on key aspects of the technology stack for cybersecurity. And when I say checkups, I don't mean a penetration test. We do that. I don't mean a vulnerability scan. We do that. I don't mean a dark web or a breach test or something like that. We do those tests as well. A cybersecurity checkup is a no nonsense, pop the hood, sit right seat ride with an engineer from that skill set. For example, one of the bullets that we do, there's 7 of them, is email security. I don't care if it's Proofpoint or Mimecast or Microsoft or whoever it is, pop the hood on your email security provider, take a look at your policies and controls, see what you have in place there, and then we put together recommendations and findings based on the technology they're already invested in and what we think they should do to make sure that this is as secure as they can. We don't say, hey, you should buy this product or you should buy this product. We meet the customer where they are, and you basically teach them, hey, how to use that machine gun more effectively, right? How to use that tool, right, more effectively. And we do that across 7 different disciplines within the cybersecurity checkup. We can help organizations with 1. We can help them with all 7. There's things like backups, MFA, their remote connectivity, ZTNA or VPN connectivity, things like that. Areas where we see organizations get in trouble from a security standpoint. So these are not specific solutions. We're not positioning a specific answer to a question. We're not evangelizing a specific brand over another. Most of your clients are all doing all of this at some level or another. They all have some type of patch management in place. They all have some type of backup in place. They all have some type of monitoring in place. But maybe they need some help with the evaluation of where they are with the tools that they have. And we do that on a monthly basis for some clients, biannual basis and annually for others. So it's a constant discipline that it never goes away. And I know some clients want to just get the silver bullet, and we all love to buy the silver bullet. It's kind of like Paul was joking about earlier around weightlifting, right? You start, you got to keep on it, and you got to keep, you got to stay engaged with it if you want to see results. These are the areas of our cyber defense suite where we're seeing some key capabilities for clients missing. This is where organizations, from a ransomware standpoint, are being victimized that we see the most. And just as an example, endpoint protection, device monitoring and alerting, as well as immutable storage. These are what we recommend you have conversations with your clients around. Hey, do you need some help with this? Or would you like to take a look at how you're currently running your patch management or your vulnerability scanning or your email security? But the other thing that we are strongly promoting all the time is the idea of having an immutable copy of your backups. So when you're talking to your clients about their security, the cheapest insurance they can get is to have backups in place. And the bad actors know this, because if they encrypt their database, they encrypt their domain controllers, they encrypt their firewall, whatever they encrypt and they get access to, the only way to recover, if they don't want to pay the ransom, is to recover from backups. The bad actors know this, and part of their packets and their malware and what's downloading from an exploit standpoint is attacking the domain controllers and the controllers of the backup systems. So the bad actors know, they learn, and they have learned, that they're going to go after the backups and the command and control of the backups. So the cheapest insurance that any of your customers can get right now is having an immutable copy of their backups, a backup that's offline, that in the event they lose control of their environment temporarily, they have a copy to restore from. This has helped save millions and millions of dollars for our customers and from new customers that we get who have a operational backup that they can recover from. So the cheapest insurance anybody can get, and this is available on a cost per terabyte, 10 to 15 bucks a month type of a model, depending on what solutions they decide to use. But it's very, very, very cheap if they're serious around the idea of securing that layered defense approach. All this other stuff is very important too: password protection, MFA, SIM, email security, endpoint protection. These types of services, endpoint, when we get involved into a checkup, oftentimes we'll find that some of the key features, they might have bought the best of breed in the top upper right Magic Quadrant of Gartner. They don't have them enabled. They don't have features enabled, right? So you still gotta go in there and you gotta confirm or deny what's been enabled or what what they need to do from a management standpoint. So. All right. So as far as, working with your clients, it's a game of discipline that never really stops. And we like to engage with clients in an initial assessment. Let's have a conversation of where you are on the battlefield, what you have in place today, and where we're seeing a potential vulnerability or maybe what you're doing great, right? So checking in with your customers and being curious about any of these areas that they're dealing with. Start a conversation, see what they're dealing with. And if they ask you a pointed question, remember, I don't know, but I can go find out. You pick up the phone, you log into the Quest portal, you go to partners@questsys.com, you ask us a question, we'll give you our experience, our feedback as far as how to approach that. But it's a constant, consistent game where organizations, this changes every single day. I wish I could tell you it's a quarterly QBR type of thing, check in once a quarter. Every single day, this could shift. So having that curious conversation with your client and talking to them about this is going to put you in their mind as a resource in the event that there is an event, and they're gonna call you for help. Another thing I hope that's been conveyed is that, there is fear out there in the market. There's uncertainty, and placing doubt in the minds of your clients is a method to get a conversation, but it's not a long-term strategy to engage with them. These are challenges that can be addressed. These are problems that could be handled. There's layered defense options. There's insurance. There's backups. There's policies, there's ways to secure environments. It's not a fear, uncertainty, and doubt game, but there is an awareness that has to be real out there. You have to have the reality conversation around monitoring backups, patch levels, vulnerability scans. How are you enforcing those policies? Having that reality conversation without trying to sell an answer can really elevate you with your client. If you fall for the trap of there's one pain point and you rush in there to sell them the widget that addresses that one pain point that they're afraid of, that's good, and you can make some shekels doing that. But it's a short-term strategy. I would strongly recommend having if you can, a business outcome with them, conversation with them as far as overall what are they trying to do, and work with firms, like our organization, that helps with checkups and consistency as far as, ongoing requirements. Another good Army reference here, I guess, is the hurry up and wait strategy. Every single one of your clients is going to deal with cybersecurity event or an incident or challenge or a pain point at some point in their existence. I don't know if it's tomorrow, if it's next month, next quarter, next year. It's going to happen. Something's going to go sideways on them, and they're going to need some help. Positioning yourself as a trusted advisor who can, I don't know, sir, but let me go find out. You can help them in an emergency. So one thing I want to make sure that you all know on this call and anyone watching this is you can escalate to Quest for rapid response, even if you're not a current Quest partner or a current customer. So ir@questsys.com, just the letters ir@questsys.com, or if you go to our website, there's a big red button that says under attack. This will get you involved with our incident response team within an hour, right? So usually within about 15 minutes, we're on the horn with the contact over the phone, chatting with them about what they're dealing with and establishing some type of an engagement model to help them deal with what they're dealing with. And those are non-Quest customers. And, if you've never done business with us before, but something goes sideways and you need help and your client needs help, we have arrangements with major distributors, and you probably, if you don't know, one way or another, you have access to do business with Quest. So ir@questsys.com is definitely a way to engage. So that is it for the presentation portion of this today. I don't know. I saw a couple of questions popping off in the upper right-hand corner of my screen. I don't know if we got those addressed on the side, Paul, or anything like that, but again,
thank you. Yeah, Eric's got some questions. We also have questions that were submitted when people registered. So I'm glad we got time because we got some great questions. Let's go with Eric first. My client is looking to replace their Okta solution that provides multi-factor authentication via text and calls. Okta has informed the customer that they are sunsetting the telephony. How do you say that? Telephony?
Telephony.
Thanks, telephony features and functionality. Their current solution uses API calls.
Mm-hmm. So the question as far as how to replace it or what to deal with it on, that'd be a great opportunity. We have product specialists who, we can get on the phone with you. So if you go partners@questsys.com and just shoot that note in, we would get a technical consultant directly engage with you to talk through, potential replacement for that solution. So I'm going to take my own advice and be like, I don't know the answer to that, sir, but I will find out. And if you'd like to go to partners@questsys.com, Eric, and ask that question, we'll get someone engaged with you ASAP, or we can follow up you on the site as well.
Cool. Great question, Eric. Marina was wondering, how do you beat the CISO ego, who often feels like he knows it all or they know it all?
Just wait for them. Just wait. I mean, you're not gonna beat someone's ego. So what we try to do is if it's possible to help them, or if they are open to being helped, we try to do that through like assessments or through something that maybe they don't want to deal with. So you're right, though. They're in the security space, in all IT, there's ego. We don't try to change it. We try to be aware of what they are willing to be helped with, and if they're not open to it, there's really no way to get around them until something changes. But being there and having the ability to help them when they transition into a pain point where they oftentimes when people are in pain or trouble, the ego kind of goes away a little bit. We can sometimes get around that by doing an assessment and bringing in someone who can speak their language directly and kind of talk to them. If it becomes an ego, measuring contest, that never really leads to revenue for anybody. So just staying in touch and staying in contact with them and seeing if they're open to any type of help.
Great. Jamal has a great question. What are some key questions I can ask a prospect to uncover cybersecurity pain points without needing to dive deep into the technical side?
Yeah, so great question. Sometimes the best question is to ask is it's a little uncomfortable, but you can ask, and this will tell you a lot about the firm that you're dealing with. Hey, if a breach was to happen tomorrow, who's responsible to fix it? If you lost access to if you lost access to your database or your CRM tomorrow, whoever you're talking to, you can make up what's gonna fail. But we used to do this a lot in disaster recovery conversations. is you're basically trying to ask a question in as simple terms as you can is, who's responsible for this?
Mhm.
And if it's not a very definitive or clear answer, kind of keep scratching on that a little bit. Not in like the challenging confrontational sales mode or anything like that, but kind of drill down on that a little bit or get a little bit specific. Like, well, hey, if your network went down tomorrow and who would you call? Like, how would you deal with that? All right. Ask a little bit about responsibility. Um, and if they don't have a good answer as far as who's responsible, maybe they might be open to having a couple more conversations around getting some help there.
And another question, a little broader, but kind of same vein. As a tech advisor, where do I start if I want to talk cybersecurity?
Um, well, it's a great question. If you have existing customers that trust you in a different arena, right? So if you're a technology advisor and you've been selling data centers, or if you're a technology advisor and you've been selling phone systems, a lot of your clients are dealing with multiple areas of the tech stack. Not every firm has a CISO, right? Some firms just have IT directors who are wearing multiple hats. I would just ask that initial curiosity question around, hey, who's responsible for your cybersecurity practice? Who's responsible for your policies? Do you guys have a risk management practice? So ask your IT, if your contacts with the IT, ask the IT folks. If your contacts with the business owner, ask the business owner. It just be curious about it. There's no shame in not knowing the answer that they throw back at you. Hey, sir, no problem. I got a guy. Let me go take a look. I'll get you an answer on that. People don't, at least in my experience, people respect, hey, I don't know the answer to that, but let me go find out for you. And they really appreciate the time and the follow up to come back to them with what you found out or an answer as far as how you can help. But start with the people you know. Is where I would start, and just be curious around around what they're dealing with.
Great. Sounds good. That was fantastic. Thanks, Adam, for the presentation. Real quick, before we get to our drawing, we'll bring Darcy in a second for the drawing. But before that, I just want to mention that our next webinar is going to be on July 9th, Wednesday, July 9th, and the topic will be how to incorporate infrastructure services into your current offerings. So again, July 9th, infrastructure services. So thank you for being here for the presentation. Everybody here has been entered into the drawing. So Darcy, VP of Marketing, is going to conduct the drawing.
Everyone, today's winner is Sean Mills. So congratulations, Sean. We will be sending out via email information for your digital gift card. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Great. Congratulations, Sean. Adam, again, thanks for being here and sharing all the information. On the screen, you guys can see if you want to join us. The partner marketing program, our portal is always available. This video will be there in the portal as well. We'd love for you to join us, and also join us on LinkedIn. We have a partner page there as well, where we'll be sharing a lot of information. So thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.